welcome to the CTF Underground Podcast, CTF all that. Now your host, my boy, from the hood, Alb, and Money and the Lose. Let's go. Goal, 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 goal. Hola y bienvenido al Barca Subterráneo. They come to the flag. Todo CTF todo el tiempo. Démosle la bienvenida a sus anfitriones, Alberto y Angelos.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of CTF Underground. My name's Alb, and hosting with me once again, we got Kelby. How's it going, brother?
Yo, what's up? Just another Monday. Good to be here.
I love that. So, we're back again, guys, recording this on Monday, releasing it. You're listening to it on a Tuesday. We're going to basically go over things that happened yesterday for us, so Sunday, week 2 of CTFDL season 2. We're going to go into a couple different things, like some rule changes and stuff, but basically we're just going to, same thing as last week, we're going to go over the matches that just happened, some things we've seen, some things we'd like to see, maybe change up some things, or what squads did or didn't do good. And then, we'll just hash it out from there and talk about next week's games as well. So we're going to kick it off right now. We're going to get into basically what just happened for week 2, who won, who did things good. We'll go over all the matchups. So, Kelby, I'm going to get you to take it away.
Sure. And continuing consistency, I was able to watch all these games live last night and then kind of rewatch the different perspective odds of them this morning. So my thoughts are compiled around watching each game about 2 to 3 times each. Kicking it off in order of how we saw it last night, we had Pizza Rats, who was undefeated going against Raccons. Pizza Rats, again, had the opportunity to take Titan. They did so, grabbed D6, stabilized their defense there. Raccons took A5, which was a little surprising because most of us say A5 is a very hard base to defend. You need elite fighting imps to really get any use out of it. Otherwise, you're at a disadvantage the whole time. Both teams kind of opened up with a traditional power offense. For a second, I saw some extended info play in the game for the first 5 minutes. I was thinking, okay, this will be different. We'll see some double EB spam, maybe some rep charge disruptor. That didn't stay in. Maybe you guys are just flagging extra late on both teams. We did see the 3-imp heavies come in. There was some controversy in the first 10 to 15 minutes with Smoka, Premier O-imp, not being able to stay in the game. So he's lagging all over the place, looking like he's playing on AOL back in the 90s. Mecha's subbing in and out. As part of that, from my perspective, I thought Raccoon's offense was doing a good job being stable in D6, and I think that caught a lot of people in spec by surprise. After Raccoon struggled so much the previous week attacking A7, held up by Leeties and their defense, they came into D6, and you were in the game. It looked like they had you on the run for a lot of it. And I think part of that's, the frustration of stabilizing 10 people in the game when you're losing people to spec, but also just a good performance by Raccoons, whereas Pizza Rats, who everyone thinks, they have all this great fighting talent, they didn't look like they were at their best last night on defense. So eventually the game script on this, Smoker gets back in, you guys get 3 straight pushes into A5, and you take control of the boxes. I've talked about it all season, preseason, summer. Until we fix those boxes at A5, I think it's just too hard for the defense. You guys got the boxes, you blew up all the turrets, rushed the flag room. Once you had the opportunity, you're out with flags. 10-man, pretty uneventful. I'm kind of harping on 10-man defense all season, all league, all the time, trying to help people really stabilize it. There was an abort that came up due to what I think was a misplay, but ultimately you guys cleaned it up. Second push comes in, no more aborts, game's closed out. So Pizza Rats takes the win, but I still want to credit Raccoons on this because as someone just spectating, taking notes and making guesses, I didn't think this game would be as close as it was. So it looked like they didn't have SSJ this week. They did have him last week. I think Andrew was playing injured, decall, Infit A5, which again, I just think that base is bad. I don't think anyone should be picking it, defending it, unless you've got 3 really, really strong imps with chemistry together. But either way, Pizza Rats gets the win. Raccoons, great performance, I thought. And yeah, you were in the game. What was it like?
So being in the game, you pretty well nailed everything. We probably didn't expect their offense to be as strong as it was, but overall, we expected. I told the team before we got into it, do not take this team lightly. Their 10-man beat Leeties in week 1. They have obviously deep blinks that they like to do. We seen them do 2 blinks in 1 push one time. As soon as they died off and the other team pushed out, they blink back again. So like they're witty. They do these like, backdoor plays, and which they did them on us too. Infinite had a deep blink against us, or Decker, sorry, had a deep blink against us and almost cleared us in D7. Our defense was scrambling the entire first little bit of that game. I'm not sure, like, I haven't got to see the D7 video yet, but I know that it is being uploaded right now. So like after this podcast, so I'm gonna rewatch it again. I seen it from Andro's perspective. I seen like our offense basically in a 10-man, and like you said, they got an abort due to like a misplay, but we recovered it, and the 10-man seemed strong from there on out. We've only played D 10-man at D7, so I don't know what's going to happen in A7. It might be a different story, it might not be, so we'll figure that out next week. But overall, it was a scramble. Like you said, I was having to swing. I think I swung home 4 or 5 times in the 20 minutes that we were playing. They're all really had our D pushed down. They had them held down. I don't know if it was like a rut that they couldn't get out of. We kind of tried to do something a little bit different too. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I will. So we thought that Infinite was going to be their engineer, and as everybody knows, I'm going to out him right now, so in future weeks, if you guys are playing against this guy and he's engineer, you can use this. He doesn't go straight home and build turrets, all right? He goes to the caves, he spends about 2 minutes of mining, he gets that extra tox, then he goes home and builds turrets. We were going to storm their base and try to disrupt them before he could get back to the base. He wasn't engineer, so we said, you know what, we had this plan to do it anyway, so let's try to do it against them, and maybe we'll take a turret off them, or maybe we'll disrupt them, take down a ret, grab one, whatever the case may be. And it just didn't work out for us. So like usually we'll grab some minerals for engineer, we'll get defense stabilized, and then we'll go to offense, so all 5 players on defense can stay home. And we got that EB. It didn't happen this time. We didn't get those extra minerals, we didn't get the D set up, we kind of just went right offense. And then we had Smoka lag out, so we were doing subs, and then I was swinging home, and it just like we just didn't get a rhythm at all. And from the Andro's perspective, like we still pushed them in pretty good. They were like getting the best of us for a little bit at the start, but like we did still hold our ground. I mean, Mecha came in as a sub. He had 20 kills by the time the breakdown was all done, and he was only in the game for a little time, so like he held his own. We did fight for those boxes pretty good. We didn't get a whole lot going, but it was just a frustration, like you said. You might have dealt with this in previous years. Like you're leading a team. I mean, I'm pretty fresh coming back. I didn't play since season 13, really. So I'm trying to lead this team. I'm trying to play. I'm trying to unrust, and it's just like I'm swinging home, and we're trying to get everything stabilized. So I definitely had some frustration on my side trying to like figure it out and get everything driving again. But I mean, we did get it all figured out after we got Smoka back in. We got our offense going continuously without having to swing home, and then we just cleaned it up from there.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about game script before on this podcast, and like typically if you're leading either side of the field, whether it's offense, defense, whatever the case, you're looking at the game script as we're going to get the flags down after the game starts, get turrets built, and then deploy the 5 versus 5. When you don't get that clean start, it's very frustrating. And we can go back to last week or the week before. You're playing under the lights, right? It's different than, hang on, guys, something didn't go right. Like there's pressure in the game. It means something. It's hard to navigate. Even on those stacked squads, like we talk about the undefeated BDS seasons, however many we played on or they had, you don't want something like that to go wrong where suddenly you're subbing someone for lag, which by the way, we've hardly seen in both draft leagues. So unfortunate for Smoka. And it's not trying to hate on Mecha at all as captain or player of that game. I also thought Mecha played, pretty well given the circumstances. But when you take Mecha's OINF on paper versus Smoka's, I mean, this is very different. Smoka's arguably the best OINF in the game right now. Mecha doesn't have that huge superstar impact as OINF. He usually plays heavy. So I agree that Mecha held his own, but really once you guys got Smoka back in, things looked more according to the predictable game script of A5 is going to fall. It's not a good base. It's near impossible to push all the way out. And from the POV I saw, I think it was Andrew's recording, it looked like the collective team had plenty of talks to stabilize that base in A5.
Yeah.
But due to the recurring things I've said about A5 and how it's structured and it's hard to clear the SL and everything, that doesn't really matter. Like you get the upper hand on those boxes on offense, you're good to go. They can have 800 talks. It's not going to matter. So to me, that's how it played out. Shout out to, both teams. Good game to watch, but congrats again on Pizza Hats.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you could have unlimited talks. Once you get that pressure and you get in that flag room, there's just absolutely nothing you can do. You don't have time to rebuild. You don't have the talks on you, for example. You got to die off, and at that point, it's a good game in that base. I'm looking forward to the restructure of it and the changes that are going to be implemented for like future draft leagues if they happen, because it sucks right now that Collective only has A7 that's a viable base. Like A5 is just it's not usable. Like you said, you have to have a powerhouse 3 infantries to get that base going. I want to shout out one person though. Ghost Bomber had a great game. There's a guy who's, he got picked later in the draft. He's a solid infantry. He's a solid player. He really did good for his offense. I heard our defense call his name out a few times, and he had a really good game. So shout out to him. It's good to see those later picks come in and do good for their team.
Yeah, and that's really well deserved, right? Like most of us know Ghost Bomber from 20 years ago. Just one of those guys that played X or something. Wasn't a huge name in CTFBL. I think he may have been on a few squads, but yeah, I saw the same thing spectating it live. Like, wow, they're really not closing on Ghost Bomber, and he's suddenly making a difference. So I've played in a few mixes with him where he's squad leader. He communicates well. He's doing the best he can. But to see him play Imp and again make substantial progress at D6 against your 3 Imps, who the majority of the league thought this is a solid defense. Yeah, shout out GB. Well played.
Yeah, 100%. He came out and showed out for his team, and I do believe from talking to a few people, I think that's the offense that they're gonna run with in week 3. So I want to be able to spectate it and see how it goes, from the other end. And I want to see it. Like I said, I'm going to watch the video of our defense. So I want to see how he actually performed overall. But he was definitely a name that was called out more than once on our comms.
Yep. All right. So I think we move on to the second match of the night, which was Leeties versus Cuck. This game opened up with Leeties, Bond Squad taking A7. We saw them take A7 last week as well in that forever seeming game against Raccons. Cuck opened this one taking D6, and Leeties came out running a traditional power offense. Cuck, on the other hand, came out with JT Infil to start off with. I think Leeties had Zeman switching to JT just before the 10-minute mark. It was around 8 minutes. But yeah, that was somewhat effective in the interim. But then Cuck was also switching head around back and forth. Really, the game script of this game was the Cuck offense could not do anything. And we talked about it previous weeks. Their performance last week when I think they were attacking Ep.4 was lackluster to say the least. Watching them attack A7, I'd say it was arguably even worse. And to Leeties' credit, they did solve their defense. Last week they had deployed Colossal and Rue to begin with, and it was Salve on call with Rue as a finisher. This week they brought out Salve on call with Noskeeper, who's a, I guess, legendary skirmisher. He was the finisher, and he played outstandingly well.
Yeah.
Playing that killer Imp role. I think he was even out killing the heavy most of the game. Maybe he did out kill him at the end. I'm not a stats guy. But I was watching that a lot, and just dominating these guys. They're running JT Infil with Chucky and RR and Power, and I think Head's the Infil, and going absolutely nowhere. At some point, they switch Head into Heavy, also going nowhere. I talked to a lot of these guys throughout the week about how you can be more effective on offense when maybe you're undermanned from a fighting capacity, which I think was the case this game. And the squad leader's participation in these fights is so pivotal to pushing. But if anyone watched the VOD or watched this live, Attempt, who is playing squad leader, is so detached from this offense that Cuck's deploying. It's not enough. Like he's setting grapes because they're worried about a beacon or something. Then you're asking RR user and Power to outfight, Noskeeper, Salve, and Tactical. It's just too hard of an ask. You got to see these SLs get engaged in the fight, actually EB, maybe get up close and provide some CR, some instant if a P6 imp pushes you, something like that. But I don't know. I'm kind of running on fumes for Cuck at this point. I didn't like the way they drafted their team, and then they've been ravaged by people not showing up and they're not available. On the other hand, Leeties turns this around. They're attacking with, I think ZMN may have been leading the offense. I don't have comms from that game, but I think that was the case with Salve kind of shot calling on defense. And they really just look solid. I mean, they pushed them so far out on defense where they're down at the dueling pad at A4. Like that's where Salve and Noskeeper are pushing these guys. Poor Attempt running for his life. They were able to swing their defense and finish off D6. So this game followed the script perfectly. Cuck's offense just has not shown that potential this league, and Leeties took advantage of it. A few swings here and there. Close it out. I was really excited for the 10-man because I've actually worked with Leeties during the off week, telling them like, hey, you could have won the first game if you executed this 10-man better. Go watch the podcast. I'll talk about this joke. So I'm watching this one. They got their infils in so fast. I'm sitting there thinking like, this is it. They're taking the advice. They've got it. Infil's up at the choke. Let's go. It's going to be a no abort 10-man finally. I'm not going to name names, but one of them let me down. You're playing the choke right. The other one kind of got scared, backed up to the flag room. Suddenly, Cuck is flying in with 7 people, all the Kara imps, and then you're just getting overwhelmed, where you've got to play more aggressively at that choke for the turrets. I told him again after the game, should they come up in that situation again where they're defending one of the long bases, whether it's A7 or F4, and they get control of that turret choke, I hope to see them hold it. Because I think there's a strong argument that Leeties should be undefeated right now if they would just fix that 10-man defense. They got to it twice in week 1 against Raccons, blew it unfortunately. Raccoons steals the flags, moves across the map, and wins. I don't know. I think if Leeties cleans it up, they're one of the top squads, if not the top squad, against Pizza Rats, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I'm high on Leeties right now, but I'm very low on Cucked. I'm just running out of good things to say about him, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to what you've mentioned previous weeks and already today is how the team was drafted, like how the captain drafted the team. I know, like, I helped Mecca out in drafting our team. He said, hey, I'm going to be picking you first. Do you have any suggestions? What do you think I should do? What's the best, like, in your opinion, what's the best strategy? And immediately I just said, get the most infantry fighters, the best infantry fighters that are available for, like, the first 3-4 picks. Just grab all the talent that you can, and then we'll build a team around that. Head went the other way. He picks a JT, who is Chuck's, the best JT in this league.
Yep.
Picks him first, follows it up with RR, who, in my opinion, he's a good, infantry. He leads, but
Sure.
he's not Smoka. He's not Revenge. He's not the people who went after him. So I think that in that scenario, it just shouldn't have went that way. Like, I know he picked up RR because he's a leader. That's someone who can lead my offense, so I'm not going to have to worry about it. But when you don't get the top fighter in your first pick, you really need to get him in the second pick. I mean, as a 5th pick, Head could have got Smoka and Revenge, and that team would be totally different right now. We would probably be saying a different team is, we're running out of things to say because Cuck's so strong. But he went a different route about it. And I think it's because when we watched season 1, especially when I was broadcasting it, I was gassing up Chuck. I was saying, Chuck should be MVP, but what everyone's forgetting is that he had Flair leading that offense. He had Flair's Infil hot swapping. He was running it properly, right? They had, experience with it. There's not many people in the league right now that can do that. And, Cuck doesn't have someone on their team that can do that. It kind of sucks. And then you got their 3rd pick, who hasn't even showed up and has no desire to show up because he's busy IRL. The way that team was drafted is really why there's nothing that we can really say about the team. I will say one thing. I would have liked to see Chuck go heavy, and I don't like the argument as well, who's the other inf, right? But I mean, when you got a team who can't run with the JT and, you're getting pushed out to the dueling mat, you got to try something. You can't just keep doing that because it's just going to be a constant swing. We seen it. They lost the home, and then it was just 10 men from there. And another thing, too, I don't know if you noticed, but the Infil swap on Cuck, it just never came.
Yeah, the 10-man Infil 2, I think.
Yeah.
I may be out of sorts here. I think Head was Infil 1 deployed on 10-man offense, but then they had their call inf X5 eventually switch, and yeah, it was really late into the 10-man. I don't know. I don't know if the 10-man matters as much in this game because, again, the 5-man was just so brutal on both sides where D6 is under so much pressure the whole game. A7 is greener than anything can be because they're down at the dueling mat. I agree with the whole let's have Chuck play heavy thing. And whether or not it's more effective, like, is it going to take down the defense at A7? I don't know. But it's a lot harder to push out a heavy power offense than it is to push out a JT. There's extra ramp up time with the JT offense, and that's why you're able to push him out. When you summon Chuck, he's still got to get on a pack depending on when he's asking for summon. If he's not asking for it right away, then his summon is coming in later because he's waiting to deploy the pack. It's these things combined with, like you said, I agree that Matt's a good fighter. He's not smoke or anything. But Chuck's success in the first draft league was for, a couple, maybe 3 reasons. I don't know. But combined with Flair shot calling for that offense, subbing Infil and Infantry after spending plenty of time on BDS with us and other squads later in Infantry when we were playing, he has a good fundamental understanding of how to utilize the JT.
Yeah.
Matt is a power offense player. He preaches about how great Halogen was that one season when they run power. He doesn't even like playing with JTs. I mean, it's just not a good mix. There's no chemistry between these two. So the shot caller deploying the weapon is not calling out things that make sense to Chuck, and then Chuck probably just can't make sense of what he wants to do. So for people that watch that VOD, you can find Chuck flying around shooting, Gauss rifle at people. This is not the traditional deployment of a JT. Typically, you're moving with double EB through the base if you have an infil in. Your imps are pushing it. They're maybe carrot up because you're going to turret rush, or maybe you're just flag rushing. But these guys just all out of wax. Like, no one's playing together. I've heard from various members of the team, the comms are not great for offense. So I don't know. I think it was a bad match. They'll look back on this and say, we're just not meant to play together. And they may not want to play together next league. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope that, they're obviously, if they don't win next week, they might not show up against Pizza Rats week 4. But I hope that just for the sake of the league and, like, sportsmanship, that they do show up. It might not be a win. Who knows? They might pull off a win. They might go out strong. But hopefully they do show up and they don't just forfeit that last match because, we're all here to play. And hopefully they just, they can hold it together for that last match and show up if that's how it goes. And who knows, maybe next week they come out and just surprise us all and it all jives and they practice all week and something gets worked out. But nonetheless, I hope that they do finish strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, once again, congratulations to Leeties. Took care of business like most folks expected them to. Cleaned up a lot of things on the 10-man that went really well. Sure, there was one abort, but after that, just a massacre. Great push out, like we talked about in the video and everything, where someone on that team recognized they had numbers and they just took over the middle of the base. Game was pretty much over at that point because your infil resets are protecting the deep attaches on flag room. So good job, Leeties. Best of luck. Cuck going forward, figuring something out. And like Albert said, even if you lose next week, I think you are technically eliminated from the playoff potential. I still hope you show the following week. It's a short schedule. Everyone only gets to play 4 games guaranteed. Hopefully you guys will at least show up for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And like you said, with that push out with Leeties, I think they got to the bottom of A7 on that push. So at that point, it's hard to recover from that on 10 men. So good job, Leeties. And it shows that, they've listened to what you said. And, other teams too, if you're having problems, just reach out to somebody, Kelby, Hearth, somebody. They'll help you, all right? You don't have to feel like you can't reach out or you can't get better or you can't change some things. These guys are here to help. They have all the experience that you could need. And, they're working with teams and you can see it's paying off. So please reach out.
Yep. So moving into the last week of the match, this was the one I was most looking forward to. Like I said, that first match, Pizza Rats Raccons, was closer than I thought it would be, but I expected Leeties versus Sissors to be really close. And I don't know how the predictions shaked out for everyone, but to me, I predicted Leeties would take it in a close match, and I came out right. So the game script on this one, Leeties awarded Titan again. They took F4, which makes sense. I've talked before about bonds and tactical. They're going to take this long base because that's how you deploy tactical. He's one of the 2 best D heavies in the league, undoubtedly. So I like the selection of F4. Sissors, on the other hand, they take A7 using the other of the 2 best D heavies in the league, Tyrael. Leeties comes out with a few different offense looks at first. They had a JT in for a little bit. Again, they had the extended infil from flagging and everything. Sissors, on the other hand, looked like they were going to run JT heavy. So they had Mites running offense next to Axidus attacking F4. And one of the funniest things I've seen in both draft leagues happen, I don't know if you caught this from Spec, Solve does an early storm as infil, steals the initial RT, as I guess this is dropping and he's creating the kit, whatever. And we're all waiting to see, like, oh, what did he grab? He grabbed something. He can't move. Man, when I saw him drop that RT in the dropship, I was cracking up laughing. Like, man, what a blow that is. But on the other hand, it's good preparation by Sissors to be able to overcome that because they've got the additional people grabbing talks when the game starts. Not everyone's running around doing nothing on the map. So immediately they get the full base up. Yeah, they're down 50 talks, but they had enough of a surplus right when the game starts due to additional mining that didn't make a big impact on the game. The story of this game, I would say, was 2 offenses that looked surprisingly well into strong defenses that I would argue were held back by SL play. And primarily at F4, we talk about Doris Burke. A lot of us have played with this person, trying to give him tips. I think he's new to CTF or maybe just organized play. I'm not sure where he's come back from. But it was brutal to watch, to be honest. I mean, this team, again, with Mites on the JT and they've got the heavy in, I keep raving about how great this offense is to clear out boxes. They were making progress over and over, like taking the boxes, getting lined up. But that progress comes to a screeching halt when he gets cleared, I think 4 straight times in 3 different sequences. It's just like, man, you've got to stop coming so far down. You can fire EB from the top and not die to bonds instantly on a flank, but I don't know, something's not clicking there. That was frustrating to watch. We saw the same thing from Rue, who he makes this habitual thing of overstepping on offense, where once he kind of feels momentum from his power offense, like he was playing behind at A7, he steps up too much. Suddenly they've got two of the turrets. I was like, oh, this could be it. The SL is pushed up with them instead of back a little bit. Defense walks straight into him and clears him. I think I saw that happen a couple of times. So that's frustrating for Rue, frustrating to watch too, because it's a recurring thing. Hopefully he can figure that out. And I believe he can. But Doris, man, I don't know. I'm not going to say one person costs their team the game, because that's never the case on this. We go to 10-man, all these crazy things happen. But that is so hard to play 5v5 and be on either side, right? If you're on defense and you hear, oh, we're swinging home, we got cleared, that's demoralizing. If you're playing on offense and it feels like you're winning, you're making progress, but then you're getting cleared over and over, I can speak from experience. That's the worst. It's like, man, we just lost another beacon to the NG. He's going to go back and mine, repair all that damage we did. And it kept happening. So this game got chaotic at some point. This one made it all the way to double OT. I think it was the first game this week on double OT. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But in double OT, it's hell for the engineers. It just is. For the medics too, they're healing, I think 5 and 12 on a deluxe. The engineers healing, I think it's down to 40 per heal. And that doesn't keep up with the constraints of how much damage you can deal with a AC heavy just lining up on an MG. So, shout out to Verb, kept it going. Also, shout out to Thiz. Thiz on the losing team of this matchup. I thought he played a really good game. And this is a guy that's multi-classing. He captained the squad last season. I've played with him. I know he can play almost every class at this point. Maybe not JT. I haven't seen that one, but I don't want to see JTs too often. But man, this guy, he played NG last night. I don't know if he listened to the podcast last week or someone told him or how he came up with it. He was actually doing the Sov hot swap from season 1.
Yep.
Where once they got a decent push down to the bottom of A6 or all the way out to A3 and their home was stable, quickly, drop the toxin in the dropship, go infil for a quick run, push your offense a little bit more. I love seeing that. I talked about it last week. I still think it's underutilized kind of globally across the league. But, shout out, man. I thought it was great to watch. Ultimately, though, it's high risk, high reward when you take the NG out like that. They did seemingly abandon A7 at some point. So it wasn't like they got cleared. They made the decision on double OT. We're not going to switch back to NG. Let's go 10-man. And then this hilarious sequence occurs where Rue is the attacking SL at A7. He gets to the top, spends 30 seconds kind of panic trying to take down the flag room turrets, doesn't get the flags out. I don't have comms from that game, but based on what was happening at F4, I can imagine Sov or someone is yelling, yo, I don't care. You got to get home. We're going to lose space. They go back home, but at that point, the base is already lost. All their turrets are gone at F4 on 10-man D. I keep talking about these turret chokes in the long bases. If you lose your turrets, you're in so much trouble here. Like the advantage flips over to where the offense is at the advantage because they have clean summons coming in, full energy. The defense is attaching in a crowded flag room. As expected with that game script, they did lose their base at that point. So then the team who takes the flags is able to walk them back essentially from an A3 attach back into A6, which still has maybe like 1 or 2 turrets in the flag room. The flags are still there because Rue didn't get them. And we're thinking like, okay, is this it? Critical mistake, in my opinion, happened here. It looked like the support classes that were still in for Sissors did not board up and get to the flag room. So we see the flag carrier with bad drops at the top, like pretty terrible drops. And I don't think that's on the flag carrier because I'm watching it. I've watched the VOD and everything. There's no one flying ahead of him. So he's just walking. I assume there's comms coming over to say, hey, I'm dropping this in 10, 11, 12, whatever seconds. And no one flies ahead of him that has a greater movement speed to get to the flag room. Bad drops occur, chaotic 10-man. Pretty easy enough aborts. For a second, people are laughing, saying, haha, Zeman ruined it by not grabbing it. It's the curse. They get the aborts as expected. They still had like 16 seconds or something to figure that out at the top. They blow the whole base up. Now some flags are getting in and out. And this is where the whole NG switch comes back to bite them. So Sissors no longer has an NG in the game. I think from this point, they never went back to the NG. They just played without one. They kind of panic move flags into the caves. I don't have comms on this. I don't know what happened. But now you just got free flags in the caves. Despite that, there's not a clear comm that says abandon this and go 10-man into D6, where Verb, shout out, has built a base. They've got one flag out, and they have a standard D6 flag room set up. So you've got one team with their one meaningful flag in the flag room surrounded by turrets. Looks like a perfect base. The other team has scattered flags throughout the caves. Zeman quickly grabs the half-defended flags, gets back home. 10-man goes on. Traditional kind of panic 10-man where one team's coming in too late. The other team does have their infils in. I think they got up to 3 infils on this one. Correct me if I'm wrong. And a good chain repping to keep them out. But yeah, chaotic game. Ultimately, I like the risk that Thiz took playing for Sissors and doing the whole NG swap thing. I just think once they got to double OT, the composure kind of fell apart for that team. They didn't have like a game plan of what to do. We've got flags in A7. Now we're holding. What do we do? I think the worst thing they could have done was drop them in the middle of the caves, and unfortunately, that's what happened. So shout out to Leeties for staying composed. Yeah, what were your thoughts on the game?
So you've touched on a lot of it, but a couple points I want to talk about. First one is Doris Burke. At one point, we were on a different Discord, and we were watching the game and talking about it. He was 0-15, and probably, honestly, 13 of those deaths were clears. As you mentioned, like, we've both played with him in mixes and OVDs, and we've tried to help him. My last sitting with him was like, hey, they have a blink. Please play on the left side of the blink so you can get out of D7. And his response was, no, I want to be in the action. Like, I want to be able to help you. I don't want to play at the elevator all game. And, that's not the attitude. If you just wait out a 60-second blink, 1 minute of your time at the elevator, you then allow your offense to have continuously pushing in there, doing ret damage. You're not, creating swing home. That, man, it was hard for us to watch that. I can't imagine what it was like for those players in that game to be like constantly going home and calling the swings. And like you said, it eventually is so taxing. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me that if you get cleared that many times, you don't just take a step back and EB from the top of the base and not get cleared. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. That was pretty hard for me.
It was tough to watch. I've got my dragon brother Mites in there playing the JT thing that I keep raving about and how cool it is to see the foot JT taking over boxes, and then Chompy, one of my favorites. These guys are making progress against, again, arguably the best defense in the league.
Yep.
But to see it come to a screeching halt that many times, like, I don't know, man. That's probably the most frustrated I've been watching an offense in the two leagues, because I wanted to see those guys push through and take it, because, I'm biased towards this offense, obviously. Chompy, great guy. Mites, Dragon Brother, they're running the heavy JT thing I talked up in preseason. Come on, like, it's right there, Doris. Just stop dying. But yeah, so shout out to those guys. They played well as a unit, I thought. I think you'd get the same comments back from Sav and Noskeeper, who were in their face a lot of the game. And there was a lot of swing in that game where I could tell Sav is deploying Nos or Tactical to say, we've pushed him out far enough. Go ahead, I can hold boxes for this 10-second window. And that was well played too. That's leadership and experience of understanding swings. But even with that, like, they didn't crack A7, so they're staying in this game on the scissors hand for so long. But I don't know, man. It could have been different if the SL just stayed at the top. It could have been different.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, they were swinging A7. They weren't cracking it still. And if you just had an offense that could get like 3 pushes consecutively in that base, it could have been different. It could have been a different outcome. Unfortunately, they didn't get it going. I don't know if so I seen that Doris wrote in the Discord, CTFDL Discord, and he said that, he wanted to play safer, but his leadership was telling him to not, telling him to get in there and help. I don't know if that's the case or not, but whoever was making that call, man, that's not the play. He needs to be, until you guys create enough pressure to keep the medic down underneath the boxes for 1 minute, that SL should not be anywhere near half of that base. He should be towards the top, not mid at all. I don't know, how many times do you have to have the same thing happen before you're like, okay, let's change it? You know what I mean? I think 20 minutes, 25 minutes of that is just crazy.
I think it was even longer. I think this occurred over 36 to 39 minutes. But
yeah,
one thing that we haven't talked a lot, it's against Bonds too. Like, the scouting report on Bonds, this guy loves to flank. He loves to fight. Where's this information for the team coming from that says just keep pushing down, we'll be fine? No way, man. We've talked about Bonds in the previous draft league and a little bit this draft league. He is a premier fighting medic in the league, whether people like him or dislike him. If I'm playing SL and Bonds flanks behind me, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
He's gonna get the SMG. He's looking for the frag. He's managing his own energy. So if you don't die, he's not at 1 HP. This is a smart flanking medic. I don't know, man. Maybe they missed the scouting report. Maybe they were pushing an all-in offense of we're either gonna take him down with you down here. We're not gonna take him. But I don't know. Tough to watch. I did have some comments though from the winning captains this week. Only 2 of them, because Bonds was the captain of the winning team twice, and then Mecca from the other one. So Mecca's message out was that the Raccons put up a hell of a fight. Their offense is a lot scarier than people expected. They almost took us down. But those are the games that you draft a good team for. His team was able to stay composed. They fought through the adversity, the lag checks of Smoke and everything, and they pulled it through. So they feel that they're in a great spot to make playoffs. It's nice to be undefeated through 2 weeks. Plenty ahead of them still, but he wanted to shout out his whole team. And I talked with Bonds a little bit, very briefly last night. He mentioned he was sick this week, so he couldn't join us or anything. But he wanted to shout out the comms that were from both Salv and ZMN this week. So we talked about, comm issues last week and 10-man swaps, and how it literally cost them the game. It sounded and looked like they got that sorted out this week. They were the team that stayed composed under these weird 10-man double OT scenarios, and he credited both those guys. So shout outs from the captains. Good job, winners, and we'll move on from there.
All right, so I just want to say before we move on that the leadership on Leeties, I want to touch on this earlier when we were talking about them. Having Sav and ZMN, who are both like ex-squad captains, co-captains, leaders in multiple zones, like Sav is a leader in USL where he has 27,000 rings. They have a lot of power in that area. So it's good to see like from week 1 to week 2 that they figured it out and did get those 2 dubs. So I just wanted to like hammer that home again. So good job to you guys. But we're going to move on now. We're going to talk about what we've seen or what we think could have been done differently. I think we pretty well touched on a lot of it, Kelby, but is there anything else that you think that, you've seen that you'd like to see different or like that teams could have done different, or is it pretty well just what we said with a couple class changes?
Yeah, I mean, the class changes too, but I don't want to call out names again. So more generically, like defenses in general, they don't seem to be draining enough, like in the competitive play. Where you're getting to these big fights that happen around boxes, whether it's A7, F4, A5, D6, and then everyone's just exchanging RGs. It's like, oh man, I landed 3 RGs. Why aren't you dead? Well, I'm actually at 36 HP because I had full energy the whole time. So, just a reminder to people, whether someone's P6 or Kara, when you're having these man-to-man fights between infantries or JTs, whatever, just open with a drain. Like, it is the most effective time to kill you can do, whether it's P6 or Kara. Get them drained or have someone tell you they're drained before you start spamming RGs at them. I think that elevates the fighting capabilities across. And I'm guessing, based on what I saw from the Cuck and Leeties game, that Solve has explained that to Noskeeper, who, again, second or third shout out. That guy was finishing really well. Like he was getting the drain up close, or Solve was draining, and he was turning to him. That was a very cohesive 2-man unit that was just crushing people all night. So some folks have figured it out, others still struggling to build that chemistry in a short draft league. Hopefully everyone continues to build on that and gets better so that we don't see these 12 RG exchange fights happening in corners. Like that's not the optimal way you want to see this game go.
Yeah, I agree with all that. If you guys go into a private arena, like me and Kelby talked about this in previous podcasts where like we went in and nerded out and we tested it, you do 2 SGs in an RG, it does this much HP. If you guys go do that and like want to get better, you'll figure it out. Like even if an infantry just got out of a fight, you don't know if he's drained, you still have to drain him. He could have 0 energy, but you still have to put some shotguns into him before you just go RG him. And ultimately, most times you RG someone, you're pretty close. It's going to do damage to you too. They could be full HP. That might do more damage to you than it does to them if you're drained. Yep. So, you got to drain. You got to play the game the way it's intended to be played. That's why we always harp on EB. You got to EB. You got to drain. That's just the whole premise of the game. You got to drain then before you RG and do explosives or AR. So I agree with that for sure.
And you kind of segue straight into my second topic, which is EB. I've talked about all 3 squad leaders who kind of lost their games last night. There's got to be more EB coming out, and it's going to be a recurring thing forever. It's just like a running meme in infantry. But man, seeing these SLs either stay way up front and they're shooting battle rifles at people, or they're incinerating people who haven't been drained, it's crazy. The best thing you can do for your offense when your summons are off cooldown and all 4 of your teammates are there is help with EB. Same thing goes if you're playing Infil. Don't go for these all-star plays where you're getting a triple disruptor after repping someone. Just EB to push a base. Like EB will push an Inf back. If you play DMF, if you play NG, you're backing up when EB is coming. You're not going to stand there and tank it. It's not worth it.
Yep.
So more EB in general, more drain, better play.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that I would like to see more people do and more of in future games, which is what you already talked on, is hot swapping. We seen Thiz do it really well last night. Like I did it in my match. I was OInf. I was going Infil to push out at home and then push at enemy a little bit while we were dealing with like lag checks and stuff and lag outs. And also we seen ZMN do it. He went from infantry to Infil to JT, back to infantry, back to Infil, and it really disrupted him. Like I've seen the opponent, talk about the hot swaps and like how annoying it was and stuff. So like I'd like to see more of that.
Yep, and I mean, still 2 weeks left. We kind of brought it up after week 1 that we didn't really see it that much. But then week 2, Thiz on Sissors, it was just awesome. And again, take like one or two of those runs of Doris getting cleared at the bottom. And if he's not getting cleared, you get to bring Fizz again as an infil with reps. You're already winning the boxes. That game could have ended. So I love seeing the swaps, especially the infils in and out. There's still controversial topics going on against whether it's fair, is it too fast, teams can't react. I don't know, man. I guess I'm just a boomer. When I played defense, we always had ES.
Yep.
If an info wasn't in, it just wasn't turned on. So I don't know what the new strategy is where a lot of you guys are playing defense, carrying all this ammo and only buying ES once you've confirmed an info's in, but that's not how I used to play, but apparently that's a big topic these days.
It's not how you used to play or I used to play or how we still play. It's not how the defense is intended to be played. If you're on defense, no matter if you're a medic, an engineer, an infantry, you should have ES. Like, bottom line, there's no, oh, well, I need to carry this or that. No, you have ES, end of story. If you don't have ES, you're not playing properly. You're screwing it up for your team. There's never a time where an infil goes in, you see a sub in a chat, and the captain goes, oh, they're putting in an infil. Oh, give me a second. Let me get out of this fight. I need to DS. I need to change my macro. I need to get ES. Like, no, man, you have it. You just flick it on. That is not even an argument.
Yeah, especially on defense, right? Like you just said, I don't remember this scenario that people are talking about where it's like, oh, an infil came in, two of us need to go to the dropship to get ES. Like, there's no pause in these games. You either have it or you don't. And if an infil comes in, you're already pushed up to boxes. What are you talking about going to the dropship? Like, you're gonna lose your base if you go to the dropship. So I don't know. Just figure out your buy macros to where ES is part of it, and then sacrifice some ammo or something. It's an easy enough thing that worked for, I don't know, 15 seasons or however long we played. So I think it should just remain that way.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of mind-blowing, in my opinion, that that's even an argument or a topic that, gets brought up. Like, I could see that, sure, we don't want 3-4 infills in on 10-man. It's kind of annoying, defeats the purpose. But the fact that you can't drop ship to change your macro, I mean, no, get out of here. That's not even real life.
Yeah, I like taking the refs out of it. The less the refs have to do, the less they can mess up, the more, burden there is on the players in the game. And that's how it should be. Because if you don't have that scenario, where, again, I think we talked about it preseason, you're going back to this thing of depending on who the ref is, you have less or more reliable subs. Like, oh, this one takes 4 seconds, the other one takes 7 seconds. I've said it every week. It takes 1 second to win or lose one of these games. So I've got it on macro now. Axie's got the swap command, I think it is. You can swap to an infil. It takes me, I don't know, less than a second to swap, buy, and get back to the base. Everyone has the same opportunity to do it. Those that aren't doing it, I don't know why, but hopefully it stays like in this more dynamic environment where the players can control it. We're not relying on the refs, but I don't know. I'm not really part of that committee making decisions, so we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll get into the next topic. We're going to talk a little bit about the second overtime change that just got put in for week 2. I guess we had an 84-minute match in week 1, which we talked about. So what they did is basically they upgraded the overtime so that at 45 minutes, it's going to be stronger. Basically, Medikit got cut in half again, and then the engineer repair got cut down to 40 HP from 50, which Kelby talked about earlier. You just can't heal through a stream on that. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this today and bring it up is because we did have a match go into double overtime last night, which ended very quickly after. But also, like, playing mixes and stuff lately, the ones that did go to double OT, they ended really, really quickly too. So, like, in my opinion, I think that it's a very, very strong aspect of the game. It's a game-changing addition. It makes games end very fast. You're almost immediately going on 10 men. You said it. We seen Sissors go immediate 10 men last night. They just gave up their home once the double OT hit. So, like, how do you feel about it?
Man, I like it. I mean, as far as ending games, I talked before, I'm all for the long games, but if you want to end it, let's keep it fair. Let's preserve the game state. Any team that's earned a mineral advantage or a turret stability advantage, let's keep it. So I like the direction it's going. As far as the kind of where they have the lever at, we'll call it, where OT initiates at this level, double OT is a little bit more critical. I think it's at a good spot at this point, and that's based on results of many mixes and the second league of the draft play. I think one thing people aren't realizing enough is on defense, what a dramatic shift it makes to the medic. Say you're still playing 5v5 and double OT, your DMs are pushing out, you kind of win that initial scrum, you're pushing down. It's hard to get healed up now. Like,
Yeah.
a deluxe is doing, I think, 12 HP, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to coordinate that or figure it out mentally. Like, when's it worth it to just take a death at the bottom? Or maybe I've taken one up here because I'm at 11 HP and there's no way I'm going to get back to 30 before the next push. So I think a lot of people are focusing on the engineer aspect to it. But man, you get to double OT and that medic reduction is brutal too. So it's definitely putting an end to 5v5. I'm not expecting mini games to go further in 5v5 under these rules. And even the one we saw last night that got there, it only kind of continued going and it went even further. These guys went back to 5v5. And I think some folks in the community have ideas about forcing 10 man later in the game. Maybe that's something they discuss in the offseason. But as far as the goal of reducing time spent 5v5 and all these turtling advantages, I think OOT has really done it in its current state. So shout out to those that kind of brainstormed and came up with a solution. Seems to be working as they expected.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to say shout out Axie for putting this in and getting this working for us. He did it super quick. I think by the time that it was made up that we were doing this, it was like Friday or Saturday, and he had to put in ready to go Sunday morning, all coded up. So I'd like to just, shout out Axie for that. He's been killing it with these, updates. There was something that was said last night. What it was, people were talking about the infils. There was 3 infils in and how annoying it was. And, people were saying, well, why don't we just do a maximum of 2 infils for future seasons or whatever. And Axie already has it coded immediately. It works. It's not going to be put in for this season though, where it's already started and all that, like changing rules and stuff is obviously not the way to go mid-season. But he's on it. He has it coded up immediately. It's put in. There's no messing around with this guy. So shout out to him.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. And it's becoming a weekly shout out because every week he's firefighting, as we call it in the IT industry, where it's like, hey man, we need something done. We need it done quick. Sorry for the lack of lead time. Whatever, guys, I'll get it done. And he's delivered every week. So it's a great job. Also, he's captaining a squad and he's working multiple jobs. So plenty on his plate, but I think he's dealing with all of it really well. So community's lucky to have him and hopefully they're not taking him for granted.
Yeah, I agree. So kind of getting more into that, how he's changed it so that there could only be 2 infills. How do you feel about that change?
Yeah, man, that's a sore spot. Because at heart for this game, I'm a CTFX player. I'm all about class diversity and trying different things. Even my focus on the 10-man, that comes from CTFX. I played a 10-man zone where you pretty much play 10-man all game. You occasionally storm the enemy to steal flags. That's just how I learned to play. So we talk about, we can only have 2 infils or 1 engineer, all these other ideas. I don't personally like any of it. I don't hate it given the circumstance of the community to limit the number of infils a team can have, because it seems like people still cannot solve how to break these 3 infil rotations.
Yeah.
I've tried giving the advice before about you can deploy different run groups where you have an NG go with one of your infils, and that's going to force X number of reps. You can then deploy a JT behind him. And we've seen that unintentionally in some of these games. But if the level of play doesn't want to get to that point where you're organized that well, or you're baiting the reps and that kind of thing, then I'm not super opposed to the 2 infil cap. Just if I was playing in a league, with the folks I used to play with, I think we'd be okay with leaving it on cap. That's what we were used to. I think the generic meta back in the day was most teams had an infil in anyways. They would sub a second one in on the 10-man for defense and go from there. But I don't have an issue with anyone doing 3 infils, 4 infils. If you get ahead of them, you punish them. You're up a whole fighter. Imagine infil without reps versus an infantry. It's not even close. But people are struggling to get to that point. So if it's something that needs to be done for the community's balance to feel better, I'm not necessarily against it. It's just not something I would have proposed.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I brought this up before the season started. I said I don't agree with this, but after season 1, I came in at the championship week, so I only seen a few matches. I heard what people were saying, and I heard the uproar, and people didn't like the fact that there was 3 infils in or 4 infils in at some points on 10-man, and it that was the biggest complaint. So I suggested at the beginning of the season, and I think I even worded it as, I don't agree with this. This is not what I personally want, but for the sake of the game and for the community we have and the skill level that we have right now, I think we should go down to 2 infils max per team at one time. In-game or 10 men, whatever, don't matter. Just cap it at 2. That way everyone's playing on the same field and you're not completely eliminating the infill, but you are bringing it down to a manageable point where a team that maybe they don't get 2 infils in, or maybe they don't have they didn't draft their team properly and don't have as much power against 3 infils or whatever, they still have a fighting chance. People have a more enjoyable time, and at the end of the day, to me, what a draft league is about is people having an enjoyable time, people learning, and just that's the end of it. It's not necessarily 100% about winning, but I think that changing that rule to have a maximum of 2 infils will give people that better game enjoyment. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, and again, I'm neutral on the decision they take. I will say, like, again, outsider, I'm not competitive on this league. I'm just watching and taking notes. I think the bigger info topic should be how quickly teams are adapting to the info subs, whether that's preparing for it, turning yes on, getting their own infos in. I think that's driven the differences between the teams across the league. And I talked a little bit before about Leeties week one, kind of an info disaster on 10-man D. They're not coordinated, they don't have their info subs in, they pay the ultimate price for it. Leeties week two, quickest team to sub in two infills, like perfect 10-man D setup. Execution, something to be desired. But I think it's a lot of that between the squads. There were other squads attacking on offense who didn't get their second infill in, like we talked about in a couple of the games. So I don't know. We're trying to get down from three, but teams are already struggling to go from zero infills to one or zero infills to two during the game. I don't understand that struggle because I play a lot of the mixes at night, almost every night throughout the week, and it's like, hey, here's the subs as we planned it. If this sub number one's carrying, this is the backup, and we deploy that like it's not a big deal. But during these games, man, it looks like a mess a lot of the time. So whether they restrict it to two or they leave it at three or they leave it uncapped, I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference as far as results. I think people need to get better at reacting to the infill and controlling their own infills, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and like you said, we're playing these mixes. Like it's always me against you. It seems we played together once or twice, but you do the lineups. No matter who's doing them, this is O, this is D, this is 10-man O, this is 10-man D infills. And I listen to your comms when I'm not playing and I'm spectating, and it's like, hey guys, I'm holding a flag right now, so I need this person to go infill as well, or I need another infill. And someone is like, yeah, okay, got it. Immediately switch. If that can happen in a mix, why isn't that happening in games? Like when it really matters. You know what I mean? Like I don't see how it takes 40 seconds, 50 seconds of a 10-man for the second infill or someone to go second infill. That blows my mind. I think that, like you said, regardless of if it's 2, 3, 4 infills capped a game, if that stuff still happens, nothing changes.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe again, it's just my background is deeper to CTFX than it is CTF, honestly. Where we're playing these 10 versus 10 games. We're defending J5 for hours at a time. We're getting mazored from the flag room. Suddenly, I'm a psyops holding. I can't get to reps or something. Like we're making those subs on the fly. Where hey, I need an additional rep. Moon's going to switch from heavy to info. He's back in 11 seconds later. It's not a big deal, but I don't know. It seems like this huge confusing thing. And I've got comms from a few teams. And it's like they're getting to 10-man. It's like, who's going info? Who's going info? Can you go info? No, I just died. I don't get it. Like, plan it before the game. Say who you want your offensive influence to be. Assign a backup in case someone's holding flags. Say who you want your defensive influence to be. Assign backups. Like, it's not a big deal. Hopefully, teams get better at it. Let's clean it up. Let's see. Let's pretend they do cap it to two infuls. I still hope that becomes clean. I don't want to just see two squads properly deploying two infuls where the other squads only have one infil in for 70 seconds on a 90-second timer, and then they're complaining they were outnumbered. Like, I don't know, man. Control your own stuff.
Yeah, and ultimately that's what it comes down to is leadership, and just come together as a team and figure it out. It's pretty simple in our minds. So hopefully that does change and get a little bit better. But we'll move on from the old infill thing because I know it's a sore spot for a lot of people. We'll get into the current standings of the league. Kelby, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, we'll touch on it a little bit. So Pizza Rat's still undefeated. I think in preseason, a lot of people predicted this. This looked like a strong team, despite drafting Albert, who's pretty bad at this. But they've taken care of business the first 2 weeks, got the wins. I will say that running with Sissors, they're showing in fourth here. There's a lot of kind of controversy as far as who's available for this squad, right? And we mentioned it before, I think in preseason. Breakdance, I think he's drafted to be a starting engineer. Sometimes he's available, sometimes he's not available. We've seen them deploy 3 different support lineups in 3 different games. Like the lack of stability here has really hampered the squad. So, yeah, they're 1 and 2, but I look at that roster and I still see so much potential there if they can just get their guys online for Sundays. Like I genuinely think they can beat anyone if they deploy the right team. That includes Pizza Rats, who they already lost to and stuff, but we'll see what happens. Leeties, I think they made a great turnaround. There's a strong argument that they should be 3-0. I talked about it a couple times, failing to hold A7 twice in week 1 due to lack of coordination. Maybe that just shouldn't have happened. In my opinion, it shouldn't have. So no surprise they're up there at the top. Raccons only at 1-1 with everything ahead of them. And we'll talk about the upcoming schedule and everything, but they're looking a lot stronger than I think many anticipated. And then Cuck, unfortunately, as predicted, knowing right after the draft that, the third round pick's not going to be available and these people aren't available in certain weeks who are depth players or they're D players, it was pretty easy to predict this squad's going to have a tough time. And here we are. Things aren't looking great for him.
Yeah, hopefully they can turn it around. I'm excited to see how the standings play out after next week, because next week has a lot of very important big games happening, which is going to really affect the standings and playoff seeding and all that. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. Hopefully, Cuck can pull out. They got 2 games left, man. Who knows? They might work it out. Maybe Worth comes back and things change for them, but it hopefully they can just at least get 1 win or just finish strong. That's all we can really ask for there. So there's your standings, guys. We will touch on this again next week, but we're gonna get back to the schedule and we're gonna go over the matches that are coming up for week 3. So I just want to say right now it looks like there's a potential for a weekday game coming up in week 3. Nothing is set in stone yet, but it would be really cool to see that if the players can make it work, the captains can make it work. I would like to see it because that would be the first one, I think. I don't know if Draft League 1 had one. You might be able to tell me, but I think that would be the very first game that gets played on a weekday, and it might open up the door for future draft leagues to be able to be played throughout a week, and maybe run the same time as a USL season. I think that it's pretty far away from that, but it might open the door for it. But Kelby, you want to take us through the matches next week?
Yep. So going into week 3, the first match we see here is Leeties at home against Pizza Rats. Depending on what happens with the future Raccoon games that come right after this, could be before. I don't know what scheduling looks like, but they play twice this week. But Leeties and Pizza Rats could be for the 1 seed, and the 1 seed in this bracket gets a bye straight to the championship game. So this is a 3 teams advanced bracket, as I understand it, and teams 4 and 5 are left to watch. So this has huge implications. I'd say the biggest we have so far in the league. Pizza Rats, I mentioned before, they've played D6 both their games. I'm fully expecting Leeties to take that side away from Pizza Rats. So I'm expecting Leeties to deploy their Ep.4 defense again, just like we saw last night against Sissors. First time we'll see Pizza Rats defending one of the collective bases. You guys have heard how much Albert loves A5, so I'm expecting him to take A7. But I like this matchup a lot because to me, this could be potentially the best defense in Leeties against what's viewed as the best offense in Pizza Rats. So let's get a hat on a hat. Let's see what the best is. Like always, I'm not going to make a prediction on here, but I'm excited for this game probably more than the others this week. And yeah, I know you're playing in the game, but any thoughts external to that you want to share?
I think it's going to be textbook, like you said. A5 is not really a base to be taken. I'm really excited to play against it. Yeah, I can't play it. I'm really surprised that Raccoons took it yesterday. I did call it out like in our internal practice before we got into our game. We did do a couple runs at A5 just to like get the offense used to being in there because no one is really in there. And they did take it. I guess they didn't have a heavy for A7 or didn't feel comfortable in A7, but I don't know. That's not, in my opinion, a base. I would rather play on Titan side as collective than take A5. So, I mean, A7 is definitely going to be the base of choice there. Leeties, I would assume that they're going to take Titan and take Ep.4 just so we can't have D7 because that's where we've been playing this entire 2 weeks so far. As Ernie, with a heavy as Ernie, as good as Ernie, you want to take a long base. I mean, you would be hindering yourself really bad if you did not take a long base with him. So like you said, arguably the best defense in the league. Nas had a amazing game. Twice actually. He played unreal. Sav is a killer, best DMF in the game right now. So that's going to be a tough match. I think that our offense is, as long as we don't have any problems like we did, with lag and all that stuff, we're going to give him a good run. Don't know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, anything could happen. If Bonds plays as good next week as he did yesterday,
Yeah.
It's going to be tough, man. I told him before this podcast that he was playing phenomenal. Like, he was dialed.
Yeah, it was lights out.
He was, man, and that's tough to play against. I mean, we got a really good medic as well, so maybe, Dill can put up a fight with their SL, and, who knows. I anticipate a lot of swinging, a lot of clearing. It's going to be tough for both offenses, in my opinion, throughout this game. So, I don't, obviously I'm going to pick Pizza Rats if you ask me who I think is going to win, but I think it's going to be the match of the week, and it's going to be a good match.
Yeah, and I just want to let everyone know Albert's probably slow rolling the A7 thing. He's going to take one of those hideous cave bases that no one takes. And I've got this like triple heavy strategy. It's going to be a disaster. But yeah, if it plays out to the expected game script, we're looking at A7 versus Ep.4. And it's true, man. Like I talked about Bonds and Tactical holding Ep.4 in the first draft league. They weren't winning games due to offensive struggles, whatever the case. But I like these guys playing at F4. I think they both play really well there. And with Solve, like you said, probably the best raw fighting DF in this draft. Ruler's not participating to contest that. Man, he's lining up everyone with call. So you come down the hallway of F4, and there's like a 60% chance you're already drained by the time you get to the boxes.
Yeah.
Nos being that skilled finisher, and then Tactical just being a menace with MML. I think it's tough to get through. So I'm looking forward to it, but not going to make a prediction. We can move on to the next game. So this one we have Sissors versus Raccoons. I talked about, this is a double week for Raccoons, and based on the standings we showed you, if Raccoons is to win both these games, it can create all kinds of havoc in the scheduling depending on outcome of Leeties and Pizza Rats. So a lot to play for Raccoons here. Currently kind of looking at that 3 seed, potential though to move to the 2 or even the 1 seed, depending on tiebreak scenarios, we don't know. But there's continued turmoil in the lineups for Sissors, and I talked about this just a little bit ago, like what can they do differently, how they're managing. I've said it before, Axie's doing a great job managing this squad with strong personalities, folks showing up, not showing up. They're deploying different support lineups every game. What I don't think we've seen yet is, do we get Sinewave, also known as Mechanic, to make a run back at Engineer, thus allowing Thiz to maybe go play squad leader. Doris gives spec info, get him out if needed. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. I'm just so high on this offense with Chompy and Mites and the JT and Axie as the heavy. I want to see them succeed in some capacity. So hopefully Sissors can figure out something with their lineup. Maybe Breakdance is back next week. I don't have that kind of inside information. But Raccoons, on the other hand, they may have stolen a win week 1, then dropped a close one to Pizza Rats, but still have everything ahead of them. So that offense really seemed to click last night. If they had been given more time to attack D6, maybe take A7, don't lose A5 instantly, who knows what could have happened. But I think this is a good matchup too. It depends a lot on who shows for Sissors. I think Raccoon has a strong enough consistent showing. We know what to expect. But man, the Sissors lineup changes game to game to game. They can't get stability in those support classes. If they can find it somehow, just get like 3 stable support classes, I think Axis drafting all those fighters I talked about preseason can really light teams up. So I'm not going to make a pick here. I think it'll be a good game. Lots to play for. What are your thoughts?
Man, like you said, on paper, Sissors has a rocking squad, man. They have a lot of fighters. They have a lot of skill. It just sucks that the showing is so inconsistent. And, now there's talks of, like, maybe another person not being able to show up who was a high pick. It just sucks. I don't know if, like, on the sign-up sheet you can have, like, I can't make these weeks or something so that all captains have it and that person can drop to a lower pick. But it sucks to see that, like, such a good squad with so much talent on it has to change their lineup every week. Like, you don't build chemistry like that. Your stuff is all thrown out of whack every time you have to do that. I mean, hats off to Thiz. He played phenomenal as Engineer getting thrown into that. But, I mean, like you said, he could play SL, even throw DP in the mix as SL. I don't know, something. Just change up something. But it would be nice to see, like, a more consistent lineup from them because they are a good squad, man, and they're strong. And, I mean, we've seen Raccoons come out. They have a really strong offense. I mean, they had Pizza Rats scrambling for a long time, last night. And, as some said, Pizza Rats have a very strong defense. So, who knows, man? They got a strong O. Raccoons is looking very strong right now. Like, they put up a great fight against Pizza Rats. They came out with a win week 1 against Leeties. They have those, sneaky blinks, man. They did it against us. They almost cleared Pizza Rats last night with one of those blinks. I think it was Decker got it in the bottom corner. Literally just had people scrambling. So they have a lot, and the consistency of, like, their lineup and their spec info, they have a lot going for them. They might, in my opinion, be the favorite in this match, especially if, like, Breakdance ain't showing, another Infantry ain't showing. They could have a very good possibility of winning this match. And like you said, it could, maybe it could force a 3-way tie possibly, or they could be going for the number 1 spot. But hopefully Sissors shows that. I want to watch this match because, in my opinion, these two squads are very, very, very well matched up. I think that, this could go the distance. It could go to double OT. We might see some, like, cool plays and blinks and stuff. I love watching that stuff. So hopefully we do get to see that. I think it'll be a good match.
Yeah, and one name I think I'm remiss I didn't mention it earlier is Galaxy. If you guys remember, Galaxy ended up playing Medic last night, and that's just due to roster constraints. Galaxy was the first overall pick on Axie's squad, and I've played with him against Galaxy the past couple weeks. This guy is a good fighter when he plays infantry, but like not being able to deploy him as such, and then he has to play Medic because Thiz has to play NG, and Doris is your only available SL. Man, that changes everything. It's not like you're missing one player. You're suddenly missing like 3 starting positions when you have this waterfall effect on a roster. So yeah, I hope they can figure something out. Let's get Galaxy and Chompy on offense together with Mites and Exodus. Man, that's scary to play against for real. So I hope they can get something going this week, but no predictions for me, just hoping for a good game.
Yeah, I agree. And you said that like Pizza Rats might have the best O in the league right now, or like that's what the everyone's saying. Dude, with that lineup that you just said, man, they might have the best O. You know what I mean? If they can figure that out and get those players in there, that is a scary offense to play against, without a doubt.
Yeah, put JT to the top. Keep it going, Mike. All right, so last matchup of the week, it's Raccoons versus Cuck. I've struggled to find great things to say about Cuck so far today, and I'm still just running out of hope in this case. I'm getting higher and higher on Raccoons based on how their offense performed. You talked about like Ghost Bomber getting a deeper understanding of the game, playing really well next to Revenge and Iron. I think Imp was the heavy for last night. I think they can take care of business against Cuck. I'm going to make that bold prediction, the first one I've made. I'm just running out of hope for Cuck. I don't see it coming back. I haven't heard any of their players are coming back. I think more and more people in that squad are losing interest as opposed to, generating hope. Whereas Raccoons, I keep mentioning they've got so much to play for. Like they're still technically in play for the 1 seed, depending on tiebreak scenarios. So I think we're going to see Raccoons take care of business in this one. I'm not expecting a super long game. It may look a lot like Cuck versus Leeties did last night, where they're just pushing that offense so far out because Cuck hasn't figured out a sustainable offense. Then the swing game wins it for him. I don't know. But yeah, this is not a super exciting game for me. Sorry for all the Cuck people out there listening, but I've kind of just run out of hope for you guys.
Yeah, it sucks, man. And honestly, I feel bad for like the RR users and the Chucks on this team. Like I know when we were talking to RR user right after the draft, he was pumped, man. Like he was full of piss and vinegar. He couldn't wait to play this, dude. I can't wait to show up. This is gonna be great. I think we got a solid team. We could pull out some victories. And it's like, oh man, he's so deflated 2 weeks in. It just sucks, man. I wish it was different, and I hope this week they just figure something out, because these people deserve to have I said it earlier, it's all about players having a good time, man, and if you're not having a good time, it kind of sucks. So hopefully they do come out and try to pull out a victory here against Raccoons, and even against Pizza Rats week 4. Like maybe they do something sporadic, man, go 10 men off the rip. I don't know, just play your game, and hopefully you figure it out and you put up a good fight. But I think that if they show everybody and they kind of get it together throughout the week, they could, Chuck has flagged out stronger teams. So, it could go that way, and they could get to 10 men. So hopefully, something like that does happen.
Yep. And I think just through scheduling of this game, I think Raccoons is the home team. So Raccoons, who we keep seeing they're deploying these 3-imp defenses, maybe they take Titan, maybe they opt into D6. And Chuck has, quote unquote, flute flag D6 many times, not just now, but back in the day too. So maybe he's hoping for that. I don't know if Raccoons has a heavy they can deploy on defense, take Ep.4, take A7 to prevent that. But so there is hope there. If not, if they're attacking the long base, honestly, maybe they just come up with some power format. Let's get Head back in there. Let's get Chucky playing heavy or something, or foot JT, man. Say JT, you're good at it. Get the GL angles down and push it that way. But I'm not really excited to watch another pack JT offense attack one of these long bases, at least not given the chemistry they failed to develop so far.
Yeah, agreed. Hopefully, like you said, it is a D7 defense for Raccoons, and Chuck gets in his element, and maybe if he's shooting GL and Head's shooting GL, and you get power and are in there, I mean, they might be able to pull something out. Chuck has flagged so many defenses in his career. I mean, I've seen him go in with an Infil, just 2 of them, and get out with the flags. You know what I mean? So
I've been on the losing side of that with good defense.
Yeah, man.
That's what vehicle JTs do, man. It's unpredictable.
It is, and it only takes that one run. So if their defense can hold off enough, and they might haul it out, I think it would be really good for their morale. And for their week 4, they could even bring some of that over there against Pizza Rats, and who knows, right? So it could be good.
That kind of wraps up the previews for next week. Hand it back over to you for closing. I'm looking forward to watching the games. I'll have the same kind of analysis feedback. I'm available throughout the week if any of you guys want some ideas, help, optimizations in your play, whether it's class related, 5v5, little 2v2 scrims in certain bases. I've helped folks with that throughout the past couple weeks. 10 man, I love to talk about. So if anyone needs help, you can find me on Discord, but wish you all the best.
Yeah, and I just want to drive that home, guys. Please, reach out to him. Full of knowledge. I know you don't want to reach out to me because I'm playing against you guys, but man, reach out to Angelus, Kelby, whatever you want to call him. Get him in your practices. He'll literally break it all down for you, what he thinks needs to be changed. And I mean, we've seen it. Leeties week 1 to week 2, he's worked with them. Huge results. he's been helping me with like my calls on 10-man. Things have gotten better. Just things that, you forget along the way. A lot of us are just coming back. So, use him to your disposal. He's not playing in here. He's not going to give your strats away. I can promise you that right now. He doesn't even take spec info or give spec info in mixes. You know what I mean? This guy's not going to cripple your squad. He's going to help you. If you don't use him, you're crazy. The top 2 squads right now, they're using him, So I think you guys should reach out to him. He's willing to do it, give you his free time. Nothing in exchange. He'll show up to your practice. He'll help you guys out. You're crazy not to take advantage of that. So I just wanted to drive that home. Reach out to Angelus. Use his help. It's week 3. You guys, playoffs are only 2 weeks away. So there's never a better time than right now for that. So with that being said, guys, I want to say good luck to all the teams next week. We'll be back again next Tuesday with this breakdown of week 3. And, hopefully we'll have another podcast for you with another guest on Friday. But with that, I just want to say thanks for listening. Thanks for all the feedback. It's been great. Kelby, thanks once again for hosting with me. It's been awesome. And we will see you guys again on Friday.